and welcome to another episode of A Feminine Moment. I am Cherry Lynn, and I am here with Dixie Andelin Forsyth. Hi, Dixie.
Hi, Cherry.
Dixie is the author of Fascinating Womanhood for the Timeless Woman, now an international Amazon bestseller. Mm-hmm. Dixie, today we are here to talk about when couples argue. The aftermath when they argue. And the solution.
And prevention.
Why do you think couples fight so much, and why do they need so much help with it?
Well, I think there's probably a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons I think they do is because they've committed so much to each other, and they've risked emotionally so much with each other that the other person's opinion of them and approval of them is really important. And you also have learned to try to work together. It's not like a coworker you can just go home and just kind of ignore them. You have to live with this person, and you've trusted them with the most intimate part of your life. So, and when it comes to things that people argue about, there's some classic things like money and things like that. It's because you feel emotionally about these subjects, and you want the other person to hear you, to understand you, and to hear you. And my husband Bob, as a lot of you know, is a neuropsychologist, and he's taught me that anger is actually it's not a primary emotion. It's a secondary emotion. The primary emotion is hurt, and which makes perfect sense. So you're either scared or hurt when you're trying to express yourself, and that's why it can escalate, because you kind of don't really, in the heat of the moment, realize what you're doing. And later you think, oh, what did I do that for? What we often do when after a fight, how do we deal with it? I know people that just kind of ignore it, and they're kind of icy with each other for a while, and then they gradually start being kind of nice, and they just sort of move past it, which isn't really good because there's no repair. And all really healthy, good relationships need a repair function. We hint when we try to get over these angry things. We hint by being nicer, making him cookies or something. That's a form of hinting. Like, I'm sorry, do you understand that these cookies I made for you, I'm sorry, but I'm not actually saying it.
Would you suggest not baking something or making something for something?
You can, but that's not the only thing. Not as the solution, because you haven't really dealt with the primary thing. The other thing they might do is just do something nice for them. Go out of their way for him. Because we're human, we make mistakes, and we do things that we say, oh, darn, why did I do that? I knew better. So what can you do to repair? And you know what? These things, you might find that they take some courage if you're not used to doing them. But women can have a lot of courage. We do all the time. One thing is to specifically, when you, let's say you feel you're right. Well, you wouldn't have argued if you didn't put across a valid point. Say, I'm right. Whether you're right or not about whatever it is, go to him and tell him specifically what you feel bad about. For example, I feel really bad that I did this. Take out any blame, don't blame. Because this is somebody you love and that you married, and you want to understand them. Tell him specifically, I feel bad that I did this and this. I do this a lot with Bob, and he does it with me. Sometimes I hurt his feelings. I never mean to. I'll say, I start out by saying, I would never deliberately hurt you. You mean the world to me. And I'm sorry, I just really want to, you can either, it depends on what it is. You can say, I really didn't listen to you enough. I want to hear what you have to say and really listen. Say specifically what you are sorry for. You can say, I'm sorry that I yelled. That's not, I didn't mean to, I don't mean it. No blaming. Get tempted to say, but you made me mad, that thing, that it's no good. You get defensive immediately. And also say, can you forgive me? Now, you're not, even if you are positive you're right, you're not happy that you engaged in your part, because arguments take two. And some of the articles that we find on the internet will say couples need to do this and couples need to do that. But the problem with that, it's great advice if both are in the same space. But in Fascinating Womanhood, we talk about what we can do ourselves. And it doesn't depend on our husband doing 50% of it. Because we can't control anyone but him.
We can't control anyone but him.
This is where feminine power really comes in great, because women are more willing to be humble and say, I'm sorry, more often, because we want it repaired. We don't like it when it's uncomfortable and icy and cold. Listen to him when he expresses himself, and you can say things like, are you angry with me? Bob has done this with patients. Well, he doesn't ask them if they're angry with him. He tells people to say, are you angry with me? That way they have to own it. If they say no, say, well, gosh, your eyebrows are like this. your voice is raised. I'm kind of getting scared here. But you can do that. And remember, ladies, that when he's angry, you're angry, as we talk about in Timeless. If you haven't read Timeless, you need to read that chapter on the guard dog.
Can you give a brief as you can, description of what the guard dog is for those who have not read that?
Okay, this is not kind of like neuroscience. This is layperson's talk. Most people have heard of the right and left hemispheres of your brain. But what a lot of people don't talk about is the downstairs part, the amygdala. See, I'm not a scientist, and that's the part that deals with survival. And we all have it, and we all have to survive. It deals with your need to be safe and hunger when you're hungry and all that. And so what we've done is we've taken those impulses, like say you're really hungry. It's to get into the upper portions of your brain, which is where the creativity and logic is. If you're down in the downstairs part, which is on survival, it's like Bob said, all information that comes into you has to pass through the downstairs before it can go up. And with the primary objective, am I safe? For example, if you walk into a home, not your home because you know your home, you walk into someone's home, you're not really conscious, but your guard dog is alert to, is it safe here? It's done almost automatically. And if there's a weird atmosphere, your guard dog kind of starts barking. It's like there's a dog in there. It's not really a dog, but we call it a guard dog because it's easy to understand. And its purpose is trying to protect you. Just like real dogs, they really try hard, but they're not that sophisticated. So it tries, but we can actually kind of train this guard dog a little bit. So we get our guard dog barking for all kinds of stuff. If you're cold, your guard dog's going to say, hey, we need to get warm. So when you're in an argument, your guard dog is both his and yours are barking furiously. When you're in the basement of your mind, nobody's going to do well in the discussion. There's an easy thing to remember. Don't get into potentially disagreement discussions, sensitive discussions with your husband or boyfriend if he's either hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. And that initial spelled halt.
And where did we get that? Where did you? I think that's.
I got it from Bob, and all that means is he's in his basement. And if he's down there, don't even. It's not worth it. It's just absolutely not worth it, because it probably isn't going to go. And if you're down there, then see, for me, at midnight, I am not my most tired. Right. I have to wind down. If he brings something up that triggers you, and we all have sensitive areas that trigger you, like it's not so much Bob, but sometimes people who know me know that I don't like messes. and it's hard for me. And so people often, so I put things away, I clean things up. People often accuse me of throwing things away that I would never throw away. And that triggers me. It makes me feel bad. Anyway, so prevention. Remember, nobody wins arguments.
Nobody wins arguments.
This is a really great secret. No one wins. And at the end of it, you both feel bad and you haven't prevailed. So if you find yourself, like he says something that triggers you, just think, if I respond back to this the way I feel, it will be bad.
What you're saying is, if you don't have a repair function in your relationship currently, it's not like you have to go to your husband and say, hey, I want to do something where we have a repair function.
No. That's not. That's probably not going to go over well.
Right. So you as the wife can just start doing it.
Do it. You just do it, and he probably won't even. He'll like the results, but won't even realize what's changed. Didn't you tell me about a friend of yours who accidentally, their husband and wife accidentally gave their kids 2 doses of a medicine instead of 1? Tell us the brief story.
So after they discovered that they gave the kid too much medicine, it was just like an allergy medicine. The wife went into a panic and started to say, blaming is what you were saying earlier, right? Blaming's never helpful in an argument, because it's, especially for a man, it's probably going to make him feel.
No, looking back on it, what do you think she should have said to him?
She probably should have just asked him if he did. And if he said yes, then say, okay, here's what happened. I gave the kid medicine as well. Now I'm nervous. I feel scared. I feel nervous.
Yeah. When you own your own feelings, people don't really get angry with you for saying, I am sad, I'm hurt, I'm scared. They get upset when they feel defensive. It's what that person, that friend of yours did, was she ended up telling what she
ended up saying, she was like, I don't want to get into a fight. This could be turning, again, a late night thing where it's late at night, everyone's tired. So she said, here's the deal. You are really great in crisis with our kids. I am not great in crisis with our kids. I panic. So what I need is for you to tell me what you think a good solution is right now for us to go to sleep peacefully and everyone be happy. And he immediately came off of the defense and this tired kind of, I don't want to talk about this right now. It's going to be fine. Came off the defense and said, I got a solution. This is what we're going to do. And it was over. So.
And also that addresses man's need to feel like a hero, to feel like he's competent.
Yeah. And I think in that scenario too, it was the honest truth. It's just about,
well, it is. Yeah.
Anyone watched our hinting video, I think that also applies to your argument. I think you brought that up earlier, is that you shouldn't be hinting when you're arguing either, because that's going to make things.
You know what, Cherry? We do it so much we don't even know we're hinting. It's so common. Last night I thought, hey, wait a minute, this is hinting. And then you can also decide, if you pre-decide today, it's a normal day, nothing's happening. You pre-decide, next time I get triggered, I am not going to be defensive. I can do that one thing. Nothing can escalate if you don't do anything back.
Yeah, and I think there's this stigma that Fascinating Womanhood is about being submissive and being a doormat and all these things. And I could imagine some women watching this and going, oh, but then I don't get to speak my mind, and then I'm just doing everything he wants. And that's not the message at all that we're saying.
Not at all. He's not going to listen. He's not going to listen to you yelling or raising your. It doesn't work. Nobody wins. And nobody's listening. So if you can teach yourself first to repair, because prevention, you can do that too, but sometimes you have to go in stages if you're not used to it. And if you decide not to be defensive, like, we've argued about this subject before. It's never turned out good. Okay, what can I do? Are you angry? Whatever. Are you one thing you can say is, are you angry at me, or are you just venting about something? Because sometimes men, I know Bob has done this. He he gets riled up sometimes about some political thing, and then he'll vent to me about how this is terrible and that's terrible, and his eyebrows are down there, and I just think, okay, this is not about me. This is about, he's frustrated with whatever it is. So he's venting, and I've learned that if I need to vent, which I do more than he does, I can say, Bob, do you have a few minutes? I need to vent. He knows then that I'm not attacking him. I'll say, this really, and I need to vent about how awful you are. You don't, that's not right. You vent about something, because sometimes our men think that when we're venting about a situation in our house or something, that we're upset with them. So you can make it clear, I just need to vent, I need you to listen to me, and just hear me out. You don't have to find a solution, because sometimes men will try to find a solution. And then you can decide not to get defensive and be aware of your guard dog and his. Because if he's attacking you, he's in the basement, guaranteed. And if he's in the basement, you think, okay, this isn't going to be good until he gets upstairs, where logic like this doesn't make sense, and we can solve this, like your friend did with the over-medication thing. She said, I'm scared. She owned it and said, I need you because you're calmer than me, which validated him. She was in her upstairs at that point. She was no longer on survival.
Okay. So we talked about the repair function. We talked about how to kind of avoid different arguing scenarios and try to prevent them. What about some of the aftermath that you typically see?
People often do. They tiptoe around. They'll hope that time just sort of erases it, and they sort of get back to normal, but you don't actually talk about it. The problem with that is if you do that, the wounds are still there. You haven't dealt with them. If he called you a name or anything like that, or I guess sometimes couples say, I hate you, anything like that you say that you regret saying, it's still in there. And it's really hard to get rid of it. And I know for me, I think, did he mean that? If you don't talk about it.
Silence, just complete
silence.
Yes.
Thank you. I forgot that, the silent treatment.
There's a really great video that we did with Dr. Forsyth on the silent treatment. So definitely go watch that one, because it's its own subject, but that's also not what we would consider to be a healthy.
Oh, no. And not only that, how do you go from silence to talking again? It's super awkward. And it's not.
Some people do think that forgive and forget means forgive, forget, don't talk about it. But I've had friends that have gone through this, where when they argue, sometimes they bring up the word divorce. It's just because they're arguing.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think people throw that out. So they throw it out very casually. And I think I would love to hear what your thoughts are on the damage that can be done, not just with leaving them or divorce, but very severe kind of threats or name calling, or I'm going to kick you out. I'd love to hear what you think about what that does to your relationship.
Oh, it's devastating. Don't ever use the word divorce in an argument. I can't even express how potentially damaging that is to the relationship. And even if you repair the wound, that's a deep wound. Even bringing that subject up when you're in an argument, I mean, if you are in a situation in your marriage where you need to get divorced, you can talk about it if you're that close to it. But if you're just having a normal disagreement, argument, don't name call. I mean, Fascinating Womanhood, we all already say don't call him names, unless you call him something that flatters him, like you beast or something like that. But don't name call derogatory things, and they wound. I mean, if my husband called me, I would remember it forever. He would be, even if he apologized, I would think he meant it at that moment, but not later. And we can't control what our husbands do, but we definitely control what we do. And I'm glad you brought that up. Name calling is just and also shouting obscenities is really mean. It undermines intimacy. And I mean emotional intimacy. And nobody's happy afterwards. That's the ultimate point, is nobody's happy. It doesn't strengthen your marriage. It actually wounds it.
Yeah. I think anyone out there that might be feeling like they're in this trap of every time we argue, this happens, I say this, I think it's a trap that you kind of get yourself into. I think it's just, from what I've heard you say so many times, it's about practice and just be patient with yourself and just say, okay, I'm going to try this one. If you're in a trap of arguing and it gets mean and it gets hurtful, wouldn't you say like that? Just be patient with yourself and start practicing some of these things. Because
even if you know you're right, say, but I'm right. Even if you are positive you're right and you are right, it is not worth. It doesn't work. Yeah. It doesn't once you understand it does not work to do this, you're giving yourself the luxury of saying things you're going to regret later and then thinking, oh great, now I have to repair. We have to get past this. Some of it is a habit. If you're used to, once you're triggered, you slide down into your downstairs of your mind and you start the survival thing. Being aware of it is the first thing. Being aware, I'm in the basement. Mm-hmm. And so then, okay, when I'm down here, this is what it looks like. It's not, I need to get back upstairs for anything to be smoothed out again. Mm-hmm. So you can decide yourself to not, arguments take two. You can decide not to, you can just ask him questions.
So I have one final question for you.
Okay. What
do you think about that very popular phrase, all couples fight? It's healthy. Like all healthy couples fight.
Nonsense. Now, it depends what you mean by fight. If you mean disagree,
of course. Yeah,
because you don't marry someone exactly like you, or one of you is needed. Because Bob and I don't. We don't fight. We have disagreements, and we'll maybe debate something, but we don't.
Honestly say that I have never ever seen the two of you fight.
I can see on his face when I've said something that kind of hurt him. I thought, oh no, but then he will come to me. I know how it feels when he has been grumpy and he's kind of I would say like barked at me, mm-hmm. and then I'll feel hurt. He'll come later and said, I feel so bad that I did that, and it just is all washed away.
That's amazing.
You know what, Cherry? We've been married 50 years. He didn't start out doing that.
Yeah.
You got to give it time. And so, these things are things you can learn. Yeah. And give yourself time. If you've got these habits of reacting every time, the way you do, start with, say, the next time, just this first next time, I'm going to do this. And if you pre-decide to do it, it's much easier.
Well, this has been so helpful. Thank you so much for sharing all of your advice. And thank you everyone out there for watching. Don't forget to tune in next Friday. We have an episode every week. And I'll also attach a link for Dixie's book, Fascinating Womanhood for the Timeless Woman, in the notes below. All right. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.